If I were to ask any of you here to draw or paint an apple, how long will it take you? 15 minutes? 1 hour? Well, on an average, it takes a realistic artist 30 to 40 hours to paint a single apple. Hours. While most of you see red apple as just red, a red color, the artist sees 8 to different shades of red. Not because apples are complicated, but because of the power of observation. And the more the artist observes, the more he feels. I learned the power of observation long before I ever called myself an artist. I am from Yobe State, northeastern part of Nigeria, but I was born and raised here in Minna. I went to Mayram Nursery and Primary School. I was one of those children that loved drawing. I spent most of my days observing. When the henna artist comes to our house, I observe how she makes the lele, and I try reproducing it in my drawing book. We had encyclopedias at home, so I always went through the pages. After the rain was my favorite time, because I went out to play with sand, sandcastle. When we made sand castles, mine always had more emphasis. Flowers, leaves, little staircase. I also observed people. Why is the Almajiri child not wearing slippers? Why is the old woman not getting any help while carrying heavy loads? I didn't know it then, but I was learning how to see. As a child, drawing was all fun, play, freedom. I never imagined I would be an artist. In fact, the closest people to artists I knew were my fine art teachers and my dad, because he was the only one I saw drawing. When they asked me, what do you want to be in future? I'll say an architect. But then, I met mathematics. You see, maths does not like me and I don't like maths. If maths were to be a human being, it would be my number one sworn enemy. I wasn't bad, I was terrible. 6/60, 11/100. At least even my guesswork should earn me more marks. And yet society decided that 5 credits, including maths and English, was the major definition of intelligence. What then happens to children like me? So art became my shield. I got admission into Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, to study fine arts, and then reality hit. I wasn't so good at painting. Although we were all learning, but I struggled. Sometimes I'll spend hours on a 10 by 10 centimeters cardboard, begging my hands to understand what my eyes could already see. Sometimes I'll plead with my classmate to teach me, but I had a rule. Please teach me, but don't hold my brush. One hot afternoon, I was seated in the sculpture garden. Those that are familiar with AB will know sculpture garden. I was looking at a sculpture and how light reflected on it. And that was how it clicked. Place the bright colors where there is light, and place the dark colors where there is shadow. That simple observation changed everything for me. I eventually majored in art history, but my painting never stopped. Sleepless studio nights. My classmates often tease me. Sometimes they'll call me Mimi the Adventuress. But I'll tell them, don't worry, you see my name on Google. I'll be the next recognized female artist in the North. At the end of my undergraduate, I held a solo exhibition, and I titled it Strength in Weakness. That day, I learned something important. That weakness doesn't mean the absence of power. it is often the beginning of it. After school, I try to follow the right path. Submit your CVs. So I worked from office to office, and anytime I told them fine arts, the expression on their faces, fine arts for real. I finally got a job, but I was deeply unfulfilled. But then I always made reference to the life of Van Gogh. You see, Vincent van Gogh may not have lived to see his breakthrough, but his beginning did not cancel his greatness, and neither does yours or mine. Today, his paintings hang in the world's greatest museums, not because he came from privilege, but because what he carried was bigger than where he came from. And that brings me to this simple truth. Your roots are not your limitations. So I quit my job and signed up for a 2 days workshop in Dubai. I survived on apple and bread while I was there. My parents still don't know about this. I came back to Nigeria with 4 small easels, and that was how I started my paint and sip sessions. No certainty, no capital. But then people came, and gradually my audience grew. I worked relentlessly. I took commissions, murals. My parents' dining space became my studio. I signed up for every possible open call I saw. If a client wanted a painting in 1 day, I'll sacrifice my sleep. Time became my superpower. One time, not even one time, several times, I painted, framed, delivered, and installed 8 paintings in 1 day. Gradually, my work began to travel. London, New York, Qatar, Lagos. I became president of the Female Artists Association of Nigeria, the youngest art ambassador to Nigeria for Funun Arts Group. And my company, Art Cave Studios and Gallery, dedicated to mentoring younger artists. And then I realized something. Who I am and where I came from was never a limitation. It gave me visibility. And with that visibility came responsibility. Although I transitioned my style of painting several times, but one thing remained constant: the need to promote education, culture, and tell stories of Northern Nigeria. My art became advocacy. It wasn't meant to sit quietly on walls. It was meant to trigger change. So my art, my canvas became my voice, to speak about injustice, insecurity, education, and also to preserve the Nigerian culture and heritage. I began exploring the Hausa Ajami writing manuscript in order to advocate for the reformation of the Almajiri learning system. 2 of those paintings exhibited at the Yemisi Museum in Lagos. 1 is now in their permanent collection. Another sold in Qatar. 2, okay, not 1, 2. Carrying the poetry of Nana Asma'u Mfodio in Hausa Ajami, titled Kira Zuwa ga Ilimi. Nigeria has over 400 ethnic groups. That is not a limitation. It is a gold mine. I didn't get here because I am best at what I do. I only got here because I had the courage to show the world what a girl from Northern Nigeria could do. My parents shaped everything. My father once told people I drew something, meanwhile I traced it. He made me believe I could do it. On my first day of secondary school, he told me, "Maryam, make me so proud. One day you will shake the president of Nigeria." Well, Daddy, I didn't shake the president, but I curated 2 exhibitions for two separate first ladies, First Lady of Nigeria and First Lady of Turkey. And I also instructed a session for the previous vice president and his family. Every Sunday, my dad brought me pages, art and ideas pages of Daily Trust newspapers until I was featured on those same pages. My mother, the businesswoman, when I was young, I watched her sell Omo, Zobo, sugar. So she taught me persistence, never stopping, and always showing up. Just recently, I asked her, I said, did you like me studying fine art? How did you even allow me study fine art? Because even when I think of it, I didn't see the future in it. And she told me, I had concerns, but your father never cared. He just wanted you to be happy, and whether you got a job or not, you'll forever be his baby girl. And I still am. Vincent van Gogh sold only one painting during his lifetime. So I was afraid of becoming like Van Gogh. I tried doing some paintings, 2,500 naira each. The first one I did never sold, but I brought it here today. This is the first painting. And then, 14 years later, this is what belief can do. Van Gogh may not have lived to see his breakthrough, but his beginning did not cancel his greatness, and neither does yours. Your roots are not your limitations, they are your responsibility. Thank you very much.